Hello, and welcome back to the channel. In today's episode, we are going to whip out the massive D today and compare some 12-speed drivers that are known to absolutely smash. We're actually going to compare 6 drivers today, and all 6 have the exact same flight numbers. The flight numbers for today's comparison are 12, 5, -1, and 3. When we do our comparison, we take the same flight number discs from different companies and we answer 4 simple questions. 1, do they fly the same? 2, should a beginning player bag this disc? 3, should a pro player and expert player bag the disc? And finally, 4, which one reigns supreme out of all these? We've got 6 discs in this group today that we're going to compare, so the competition is going to be absolutely fierce. We've also got a brand new disc on the market that we're going to test out as well, which I'm really excited for. Let's take a second to meet our competitors. Our first disc on the menu is one of the most popular discs out there, and that's the Innova Star Destroyer. When I first started playing a year and a half ago, I Googled what is the best disc, what disc flies the furthest, and this disc kept on coming up. So we'll see how the Innova Star Destroyer has grown on me as I've gotten better at disc golf. Our second competitor is the Discraft Zeus. Once again, an amazingly popular disc. Paul Macbeth smashes this thing, so I'm excited to get out there and see if I can smash that thing. The next disc on the menu is the DGA Hurricane. This disc is made by Discraft, so it will be really interesting to see how similarly they fly and how they feel and all those sorts of things. Our fourth disc is the Discmania S-Line DD3. This is also made by Innova, so we'll see if that flies similar to the Destroyer. Our fifth disc in the competition is a Prodigy D2. I have never thrown a D2 in my life. I don't even think I've held a D2 in my life. I do bag 1 Prodigy disc, so we'll see how this feels, how this flies, all that wonderful stuff. Our final disc is the new kid on the block, and that's the Hooligan Yeet. Let's take a second to talk about the Hooligan Yeet. They were nice enough to send me one. Hooligan Discs themselves just started coming out with discs on May 27th, so this is a relatively new disc. I've seen this out on the Facebook Marketplace when I've been looking at things, but I've never touched one until now. So I'm excited to smash this down the fairway, hopefully smash this down the fairway. But more importantly, I'm ready to get up on that tee box and say, I can't wait to eat this down the fairway. And then probably throw it like 250 feet out of bounds or in the water. Anyways, here's the Yeet Hooligan Discs. Check them out. They're brand new. Got a couple of discs. It's this and the vibe. So go out there, see if you get your hands on one. All of the discs I'm going to compare today are used and beat in a little bit. That's going to give you the best look as to what it's going to fly like after you break it in. I don't bag any of these. So we'll see if I end up bagging any of these. I've also got an expert with me. Joining me to help with this comparison today is Prodigy disc-sponsored Robbie Squire. Yes, I know what you're thinking. Well, he's going to be biased, and he probably will. He should, because he's sponsored by Prodigy. But he's going to give us some great looks at some throws that I cannot throw, and he's also going to give us his non-biased opinion on the rest of the 5 discs. So I'm excited to see what expertise he can bring to the table as we're both smashing these discs and run them through some tests. So without further ado, let's go sling some D. All right, let's start off our flight test with our tunnel test. I'm going to give you a quick look at the tunnel here. Got a nice tight little window to get through right at the beginning. These trees are anywhere from about, 8 to 12 feet apart, running all the way up the fairway. Also got some bushes on the left-hand side. And if you look as you come up to the basket, there is water on the back half. This is about a 330-foot hole. We also have a little bit of a low ceiling right at the beginning of the fairway. All right, we're starting off the tunnel test with the DD3. Getting flat just a teeny bit and then really gets over stable early. Next is the Zeus. See what I do here. Oh, it holds that line really well. And that reliable finish at the end. All these are very overstable discs. Here comes the Hurricane. Again, not being able to get it flat for too long. Hyzering out to the left, get a good skip there. Here's Robbie's D2. The D2 is Robbie's favorite driver in the entire Prodigy lineup. We see that reliable finish at the end, hits the line great. Here's the Yeet. Holds that hyzer line, but once again, some finish there. Here comes Robbie with the Destroyer, flipping it up nicely, but once again, just goes back to being hyzering really quick. Off to the right, here's the spread. The Destroyer and the D2.
off the right-hand side. They'll have some long putts right here. There's probably one about 330. Here's the Hurricane, the Yeet, and the DD3. And our Zeus is the winner. Parked it. What do you know? Held that line. Here's the hole we're going to use for our forehand test and our Anheuser test. It's about a 289-foot hole. See a lot of trees. A couple ways you can get around this big hump to make the alley a little bit small. You can curl around these trees or flex it through the trees and end up with the basket on the right-hand side here. We'll see what we can come up with. Robbie's going to do the forehand test. He's a forehand expert, so we'll see how he does. Here we have the Zeus. Gets a beautiful line here. Some of these are going to be a little bit difficult to see because of the time of day we chose. There's a lot of shade. Show you the spread at the end. Here comes the Yeet. Once again, holding that line nicely, but then very overstable at the end. Same thing with the D2. This is the flippy version of the D2. Gets a nice flip out of that. But again, these fades to the right pretty hard, pretty reliable on all these. The Hurricane being the most overstable of the bunch, really just hyzers right away and really, really hard. And we have the Destroyer. Gets a nice little flip for a little bit out of this. It starts to fade back. Gets a little tree there. Again, this is a tough line he's going through. He's doing the middle line. Here we have the DD3. Nice little finish there. Here's the spread as we go through. Here's our Destroyer. And there's the basket up there as we get a little closer. There's where our Yeet ended up. And then we have our Hurricane and our D2, pretty close proximity. And then our winner is coming closer, closer, closer. Park City, USA, the Zeus winner on this forehand challenge. But you can see how all of them flew. Here comes the Anheuser test. Again, I wouldn't use a very overstable disc for an Anheuser, but we're going to try it, see if I can get over on anything. Here's the Destroyer. Once again, getting a little turn, but then it just goes back to overstable really quick. Sure, it takes an expert hand and a very powerful thrower. Here's the Yeet. Again, getting a teeny bit of turn out of it, then becoming overstable to get that full finish. Here comes the Zeus. Here's one I finally got some turnover on, and look at that baby go. That's the kind of line we're hoping for. Just felt as we're doing all these tests that Zeus was a little bit more pliable, and I could do a little more things with that other than the other ones where they had pretty similar flights, some a little bit more overstable than the others. I don't really use overstable discs except for in a headwind. Here's the spread. See a bunch of them all right there together. But as we get a little closer, we'll see who held that Anheuser line a little further. Got the Destroyer, who got some nice turn out of, not great. And then as we get even closer to the basket, we saw the winner as we flew. The Zeus, once again, the winner, getting it close to the basket. Now we're going to do the route for the Heiser line. This is the same hole. It's again about 289 feet-ish. Got a very low ceiling and a lot of trees right off the initial gap. Then we're just going to curl around this little hill and get through this giant bush and around these trees to create an alley directly to the basket. So if we hit our Heiser line perfectly, it'll follow that exact same path and hopefully be parked. We'll see how I can throw these. Starting off with the Zeus here. That flips up to flat and stays straight. I do like a straight disc down on a Heiser hold though. Here's the D2, Robbie's favorite disc. Another reason why he loves it, because you can hit a lot of different shot shapes. Unfortunately, got a little bit understable on me there. Here comes the Hurricane. Very overstable. Might end up actually a little bit short. Next is the DD3. Once again, just Heisering very hard on me, very quickly. We'll see where that ends up. Next is the Yeet, the brand new kid on the block. A little tough to see, but this holds the line perfectly and just gets a little perfect finish at the end. Great job on that Heiser one. Here's the Destroyer, also holding that Heiser line pretty well, but gets a little bit overstable at the end. Here's our spread. Here's our Zeus. Once again, went nice and straight over. Off to the right here is our D2. It says DD3. A little mistake on my part. Once again, Robbie loves it because you can hit a lot of different lines. I just got the flip up a little bit too much. And as we get closer to the basket, see the rest of the guys. Here's the DD3. Not too bad. Then we have our winner, the Yeet, absolutely parked, held that Heiser line perfect. That's our winner of the Heiser test. And here's our last two, the Hurricane and the Destroyer, got a little bit overstable. Here's the max distance test, going DD3. threw a bunch of these, just whatever reason, me and the DD3 are not getting along too great. Ended up getting that around 330 feet with all my throws. Here's the Destroyer. Got a little bit over time. Once again, I threw these discs for about a week. Just generally around 349 feet were my throws with the Destroyer. The Hurricane was very inconsistent with me. So here's one of the throws. I got max distance at 399 with this, but also got some shorter ones as well. Here's the D2. Get some nice flip on that. The more I threw it, the better I liked it. Once again, around 378 feet with that one. Here comes the Zeus. Once again, I'm liking the Zeus right now. It's the straightest one that I have and the most pliable for what kind of angles I want to have, and I was right around 357 for most of my throws. Here's our Yeet, the brand new kid on the block. I like this because it holds its line pretty well, and I was right around 379 feet with all of my throws. And that's it for the film tests. I did spend some time throwing all these discs around, so now it's time for our verdict.
All right, I've had a week to throw these around in various situations and get a feel for all 6 of these discs, so let's report some findings. First, let's talk about feel. I'm going to talk very briefly about the feel. After looking at them, I'm going to say the most domey out of all of them was the Prodigy D2. The other ones were pretty much the same as far as flatness, but the most domey one was D2. All of the discs were equally stiff, so there was no one that was more gummy than another one. They all pretty much were the same that way. All the rims felt pretty much the same as far as thickness, except for the Zeus. I don't know if it was my hand or not, but it felt a little thinner than all of the other discs. So if those things matter to you, that's some valuable information for you. Now it's time to answer our 4 questions from the beginning of the video. Question number 1, do they all fly the same? No, they do not fly the same. The D2 is the most understable out of the group that I've tested, and the DGA Hurricane is the most overstable of all the discs we tested for the week. Question number 2, should a new player bag this disc? I do not feel a new player should bag this disc. It's an incredibly overstable and touchy disc. It takes an expert hand to throw it. There is an exception if you're a new player who is a predominantly sidearm or forehand thrower, then you can use this disc. I feel like a forehand player needs that overstability in their disc. So in that instance, yes, you can use these discs. There are some other discs, for example, a Wraith would be a little bit better for a beginner, but in this one exception, that forehand, a beginner can use this disc. Question number 3, should an expert use this disc? We all know the answer to that. Yes, they should. We see it on the Pro Tour all the time. The pros absolutely eviscerating all of these discs a million miles down the fairway. Not a million miles, but like 500-600 feet down the fairway. It is a great disc for a expert player. You just have to get yourself to that point. I did find it was a little difficult for myself to get the consistency in the throws. I had to be very mindful of my technique, and expert players have their technique down. So yeah, they definitely should use it. They are all great discs. I'm not trying to say anything bad about any of these discs. They're all great and definite musts for an expert player. And finally, question number 4, which one of these 6 discs reigns supreme? We saw the winner for each individual test, so if you personally are looking for something very specific, refer back to those, and that's your winner. For me, it's a little bit more complicated. We're gonna have to split some hairs to decide a winner for this video. Our first splitting hairs category is availability, and our winner for that is the Star Destroyer. You can find a Destroyer anywhere. They're readily available. Wherever you buy discs, they're all over the place. There's so many Destroyers flying around. You can find the one you want. It's pretty simple. And I would say the most difficult to find right now is the Yeet, and that's because they just came out. I know they're getting ready to make some more, so check on those. Our second category to split hairs is price. The winner in our price category is the Star Destroyer. As I did my internet research, I noticed they were consistently the cheapest. The Yeet and the Prodigy D2 came in second place, virtually at the same price. The Yeet does offer a slightly cheaper version with the X-Outs, much like a Innova F2. So check out for those as well if you're looking for something a little cheaper. The most expensive out of this bunch is the Zeus. They have become very, very highly sought after and pretty high in the secondary market, so it's a little bit difficult for you to find a cheap Zeus nowadays. But our winner in this category, once again, is a Star Destroyer. And our third splitting hairs category might be the most important, and that's the cool factor. I'm going to give 2 winners of the cool factor. First winner is the Zeus. Discraft's hot right now. They have this incredibly swirly plastic. Anytime I'm looking online, I see these Zeuses. They look super cool. It's just a little bit pricey for myself. So the secondary winner is the Yeet, and it's only because they also have really awesome swirly discs. It's also a really new company that not a lot of people have, so you have that exclusivity factor, and exclusivity is cool, ladies and gentlemen. So final verdict, I am personally going to bag both the Zeus and the Yeet. I found I could do a lot of things with the Zeus as far as my lines. The Yeet really held that hyzer line, and I think as I throw it more, I'm going to be able to get it to flip up and flip over a little bit and get a little more distance out. Those were my two most consistent throwers. If you had a gun in my head and I would rank them 1 to 6, what I liked the best and what I had the most trouble with, again, these are all great discs. You can't go wrong. This is just my experience with the discs this week. I would say I would go Zeus number 1, Yeet number 2. Tied for 3rd place would be the D2 and the Destroyer. 5th place would go to the Hurricane, and 6th place, last place, would go to the DD3. Once again, I'm not trying to say anything bad about any of these discs. Just for me, both the DD3 and the Hurricane were very difficult to keep consistent, whereas I didn't struggle so much with the other discs. Having said that, here's Robbie's rankings. Obviously, he loves Prodigy, so the D2 is number 1, but gun to his head, the Zeus is number 2, the Yeet is number 3, and everything else was tied at number 4. So that's it. There's our winners, the Zeus and the Hooligan Discs Yeet. Those are our findings. Zeus number 1, Yeet number 2. Do you agree with my list? Let me know in the comments, and let me know what I should compare next. Once again, we're comparing discs with the same flight numbers. That's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for the support of the channel. Once again, if you keep watching them, I'll keep making them. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button. What the heck, while you're at it, hit that like button also. Let's wrap it up. If you want to see some more tickling chains, you can check the description or the end of the video. There will be links. So until next time, peace.